Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and welcome back to JK's Corner. My name is Joke. Thank you for stopping by again today. I concluded the Good Marriage Story series. However, this is part of it as well. So when I asked for responses on the forums, I got some not so good, which I have chosen not to read. But this person, she shared her story as well. The story, I would say, falls within good marriage stories. So, in the same way I did the previous one, I want to read the response from my laptop again and, to let you know her response to it. Here we go. How long have you been married? She said, 27 years. And how did you meet? She said, arranged marriage. And what are three of their best attributes? He can be supportive. He helps with the children and the home. He is a good person but can be heavily influenced by his family, and he actually does behave like a narcissist. So, what was the reason you agreed or decided to marry them? It was the norm to go with the family's decision and not to question it. I wasn't strong enough to say no or even have the skill set to navigate this situation. I was 20 years old at the time. My family wanted to help their relatives in Pakistan to come to the UK and have better lives through these marriages. But over the years, my parents have realized they have destroyed me in the process. But now I'm trying to focus on me and I'm not paying attention to the noise that doesn't serve me. So I'm so glad that this response is from a Pakistani, somebody outside of our community. And I want us to hear from this person as well because we sometimes feel like we are the only ones that have challenges in our community. But it's just so that we are able to, there will be some similarities in some of our stories. So I thought reading this would maybe shed some light. So, in my community that I come from, it isn't mainly a practice to do arranged marriages. Arranged marriages are potentially what you'll find among the creme de la creme of the society, the top ones. So kind of like trying to keep the wealth within their circle. So that's where, to my knowledge, in my community, arranged marriages happen. But in Pakistan, it happens a lot. It happened, I think, a lot in those days. So people of my age group, I know quite a lot of them had arranged marriages. So, and I know there has been surveys in the past that shows that arranged marriages in these communities actually last longer than non-arranged marriages. And I think my opinion is maybe the fear of destroying familial relationship could be a reason why many of these people stay together, not necessarily because the marriage is serving them. So on to the next point. And what are those qualities they possess that frustrates you? He is not a good provider, protector, or leader of our family. He doesn't think for himself and has followed what his family says, which interferes in our married life. This has affected me detrimentally, emotionally, and mentally. His family encouraged the abuse to suit their narrative, and my husband, who should be protecting me, the mother of his children, enforced it. My feelings were never considered. Only his mothers and two married sisters were the important people in his life. Their needs and wants were a priority. Our money was sent to them to live luxurious lives while my children and I struggled with basics. Back then, I didn't have the skills to deal with this. However, in the last 6 years of my marriage, I have learned new skills by turning more to Allah. I no longer let these toxic people affect me. I have cut out of my life my mother in law and sisters in law, and I have never been happier. But before I did this, I have tried many times to sort things out with them without success. Even though my marriage was arranged, they have never accepted me. I tried for 21 years with heartache and pain to be accepted until I realized the only acceptance I need is from Allah, and my life changed for the better. I do not allow their behaviors to control me anymore. Alhamdulillah. I have a few Pakistani friends, and this here that this sister wrote here is not something I've only read from her. I've heard it countless times. One of my friends who is divorced from her husband suffered tremendously like this from their hands, and it's a shame really because yes, there's nothing wrong in wanting to help your family to come and better their lives because let's be honest, that's what we all came to do as well. But to do it at the detriment of somebody else is what is wrong. And that is where men who are husbands or intending to be husbands and the families of such men need to think before they do these things. It isn't right. It's wrong. You should not be trying to advance yourself at the detriment of somebody else just because you think you are better or more deserving than them. I'm so happy that this sister has, in a way, turned things around for herself in the last 6 years of her marriage. And I hope that her marriage as well is doing better. How do you manage the shortcomings in your marriage? I make my own decisions in our marriage, and I have made it very clear I don't want any interference from his family in my life or home, and I want nothing to do with his family. The years of abuse I have been through. The last years have been hard, but my life has changed for the better. My husband and I had to separate twice, which my husband was not happy about. But I had to be strong and let him know what he was doing was not okay. He needed to provide for us, not for his family in Pakistan's luxuries. And they also had their own providers. Once he realized I was willing to walk away from our 21 years of marriage, he changed, but very slowly. I had to stick to my plan and be very firm. And that's how my marriage became better when I was no longer a doormat for them. He used to threaten to smash the house up, and I used to get scared of his anger until I confided in a friend of mine who helped and guided me to deal with this. I'll just pause here because I want to emphasize the need to have somebody we can talk to. She confided in a friend who helped and guided her. It is very important. In my community, I know during marriages, a lot of the times people say, do not invite a third person into your marriage. Do not discuss any marital problems with anybody outside of your marriage. If I don't understand, if you and your husband or you and your wife are having problems and you're not finding a way out of it, if you do not discuss with anyone, how are you going to get out of it? So I strongly advocate that we learn to start speaking to the right people in when we have problems in our marriages, because ultimately I believe that there are ways that potentially, maybe not all marriages, that there are ways that we can move forward as long as we are able to speak to the right people. Allah has answered my du'as and sent help and guidance for me. I didn't want my marriage to break purely for the sake of my 7 daughters. MashaAllah. Allahumma barik. I wanted their dad to be the father they deserved. It's being hard, but we are getting there. But I did say to my husband, I hope we both make it to Jannah. I hope every Muslim does, but I don't want to be with you there. I want to be free. I used to think I had an in law problem, but then I realized it was a husband problem. If he balanced these relationships, I wouldn't have suffered, and the stress of my marriage has affected my health. Men need to learn to balance relationships, but their upbringing affects this in most cases. His mother and sisters became jealous and resentful of me when he was good to me. So, listen here, she said, men need to learn to balance relationships. And this is so true because for men, the demand on their finances and time is from both sides. So there's a demand from their own parents and siblings for their money, and there's a demand from their wife and children. But what men sometimes forget is that the demand for your finances from your wife and children is actually more important in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the demand from your parents and siblings. I'm not saying you shouldn't provide for them, do not get me wrong. All I'm saying is that the demands from both of the families, you must learn how to balance those demands. You must learn how to balance those demands when they arise so that you do not end up having problems in your marriage. What is or are those qualities they possess that you did not realize the value of in the early days or has been a blessing to your union several years later? His kindness and love. See, that is it. No matter how bad we are, because I feel like sometimes, even personally, I judge myself to have some really bad qualities, but we all have really good qualities in us as well. And look at this. And I think I've not finished reading the whole sentence there, but his kindness and love. And I think the kindness he has is what his family, his mom and sisters capitalized on. They know he's very kind, so they capitalized on that. And he did not know how to balance providing for them and providing for his wife and children. He did and does love me, but when he treated me badly because he was brought up to be loyal to his mother and sister's needs and wants, he wasn't able to balance this. It was all or none. His mother never taught him how to treat his wife well. So I'll pause there again. I have a son as well, and in the course of raising children, I have identified that it's all well and good us telling our boys what they should be like and how they should be like. One thing that has been glaring to me over my years as a mom, alhamdulillah, is the fact that the dad has to be a very good representation of a husband. If that is lacking, it doesn't matter how much the mother tells him, it doesn't really sink in. Now, how about sons who come from homes where the husband was not a good representation of father? Again, that would then you then hope that the individual, the boy, his mom raised him with kindness, and that way he grows up to have kindness in his heart. And if he saw his mom suffering from his dad, maybe that would then make him realize that I never want anyone's daughter to feel the way my mother felt with my dad. And then he'll do something different to how his dad treated his mom. It was me that had nothing from him, no love or care, and I became a terrible wreck. After these last 6 years of me standing up for myself, my marriage has changed and he has started valuing and appreciating me more. Our marriage will never be the same, but I will make my marriage work for the sake of Allah. Oh, firstly, I want to say thank you so much, sister, for sharing this with my community. And I like the level of depth you gave, because a lot of the responses that I got from here are from my fellow Nigerians, and they're quite short responses. You have actually given a lot of depth in your responses. But also, you said here that after the last 6 years of your this last 6 years of you standing up for yourself and speaking out for what you want about from your husband, things have things have changed, and your husband values you more and appreciates you more. And I hope that continues for you, dear sister. I really hope that you have been able to build something really good for yourself, because you have been married for over, 27 years. And the truth of the matter is this: it doesn't matter how many children we have. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all long life in good health. At the end of the day, our children will leave home and will be left with our husband. So whether we say, I know you said that you do not want to be with him in Jannah, but the fact is, this is our reality right now. We know that we have been told in the Quran that Jannah is everlasting. I know that is a very, very long time, and I pray that Allah grants us all a place in Jannah to Firdaus. However, when your children leave home, it will be you and your husband. So I hope things continue to improve for the better in your marriage. And once again, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. Well, I hope we have all learned from this story. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bye bye.